The slap landed before Asha could finish her sentence. She staggered back, her heel catching on the edge of the mat, and for a brief second, the room spun. The clay wall steadied her before she fell. Her ears rang. The taste of blood filled her mouth. "Are you deaf?" Kebede shouted. "I said the harvest failed because you are useless." Asha said nothing. She had learnt that words only invited more blows. Outside, the night was quiet, too quiet. Neighbors were awake, she knew that, but no one moved. No one ever did. In the village, a man's anger was a private matter, even when it spilled into the dark. Kebede kicked the stool aside and paced the room like a trapped animal. "You think food will fall from the sky? Other men's wives know how to walk." Asha lowered her eyes. Her cheek burned. Her arms trembled, but she folded them carefully against her body, protecting what she could. When Kebede finally stormed out, the door rattling behind him, Asha sank to the floor. She did not cry. Tears came later, when the body felt safe enough to release them. At dawn, she washed her face in cold water and wrapped her scarf tightly around her head, hiding the swelling. She moved through the compound quietly, grinding grain with slow, steady hands. An old woman passing by paused. "You are early today." Asha forced a smile. "Sleep escaped me." The woman nodded. She did not ask why. By mid-morning, the village buzzed with the news of the failed harvest. Men gathered under the acacia tree, voices sharp with worry. Women spoke in low tones near the well. Asha joined them, listening. "What can she do?" one woman said. "Marriage is not sweet food." Another added, "A woman's patience is her strength." Asha felt the words settle on her chest like stones. That afternoon, Kebede returned. He did not speak to her. He ate, wiped his hands, and left again. The silence hurt more than the slap. That night, Asha did something she had never done before. She left. She wrapped herself in her shawl and walked beyond the last hut, past the fields that no longer promised anything, toward the small home near the rocky path, the one people whispered about. The old woman opened the door without surprise. "She knew you would come," she said. Inside, the room smelled of smoke and dried herbs. The woman motioned for Asha to sit. For a long time, neither spoke. Then, Asha's voice broke the silence. "I cannot live like this." The old woman nodded. "Many cannot, few say it." Asha clenched her hands. "The elders tell me to endure. My mother tells me to endure. Even my body tells me to endure." She swallowed. "But I am tired." The old woman studied her carefully. "What do you want?" Asha hesitated. "I want my husband to change." The old woman leaned back. A faint smile touched her lips. Not mocking, not kind, knowing. "Then you must do something impossible," she said. Asha lifted her head. "Anything." The old woman's eyes sharpened. "Bring me the whisker of a living lion." The words hung in the air. Asha stared at her, waiting for laughter. None came. "A lion?" Asha whispered. "Yes," the old woman replied calmly. "A wild one, alive." Asha's breath caught. "That will kill me." "Perhaps," the woman said, "or perhaps it will change you." Asha stood slowly, her legs unsteady. "People will laugh. They already do," the old woman said gently. Asha left without another word. The laughter came the next morning. "She has gone mad. Which lion will wait for her? Better to die quickly than slowly, I suppose." Asha did not answer anyone. She walked toward the hills where the land rose sharply and the grass thinned, where goats disappeared, where men did not go alone. By the time the sun was high, she saw it. The lion lay beneath a large rock, golden and still, its eyes half closed. Fear seized her whole body. Her feet refused to move closer. She turned back. That night, Kebede raised his hand again. Asha did not scream. She only thought of the lion's eyes, calm, watchful, dangerous. The next morning, she returned to the hills. This time, she did not run. She sat far away, heart pounding, and waited. The lion lifted his head and looked directly at her. Asha's hands shook. She did not move. The wind passed between them. Somewhere deep inside her, something shifted, and for the first time in a while, Asha did not feel small. Asha returned to the hills the next day, and the day after that. She did not go with hope. She went with fear sitting heavily in her stomach, tightening her steps, slowing her breath. Each morning, she left before the village fully awoke, before anyone could stop her with questions or laughter. The lion was always there, sometimes lying in the shade, sometimes pacing slowly, sometimes watching her with eyes that made her legs feel weak. Asha never went close. She stayed far enough that she could still run. The first rule she learnt was distance. On the third day, her courage failed her. The lion stood suddenly, stretching its massive body, muscles rolling beneath its skin. Asha's heart slammed hard against her ribs. She turned and ran, her feet slipping on loose stones, shame chasing her faster than fear. That night, Kebere noticed her silence. "You walk like a ghost," he said, chewing noisily. "What foolishness are you chasing now?" Asha said nothing. The slap came without warning. She fell, her shoulder striking the wall. Pain bloomed sharp and bright. "Tomorrow," Kebere said coldly, "you will not wander, you will walk." Asha lay awake long after he slept. Her body ached, but her mind returned again and again to the lion. Not its teeth, its stillness. It does not rush, she thought. It does not shout. The next morning, despite the pain in her shoulder, she returned to the hills. This time she brought meat. She placed it on a flat stone far from where she sat, her hands shaking so badly she nearly dropped it. Then she retreated and waited. The lion noticed. It approached the meat slowly, eyes never leaving her. Asha's breath came shallow, careful, as if loud breathing alone might provoke death. The lion ate and did not attack. Something loosened in Asha's chest. The days stretched into weeks. Sometimes the lion ignored the meat. Sometimes it roared, a sound that vibrated through Asha's bones and reminded her how small she was. Each time fear returned, hot and thick. But Asha learned another rule: never rush. When fear rose too high, she left. When her legs shook, she sat down. She began to notice details: the way the wind shifted, the times the lion preferred shade, the moment its attention drifted. Patience grew where panic once lived. Back in the village, things worsened. Kebede grew angrier, confused by Asha's quiet. She no longer argued, she no longer begged. When he shouted, she listened without shrinking. This unsettled him. "Answer me," he yelled one evening. Asha met his eyes calmly. "I heard you." Her voice was steady. His hand hovered, uncertain. That night, the slap did not come. Whispers followed her in the village. She walks differently now. Her eyes are no longer low. Some mocked, some watched carefully. The old woman smiled when Asha visited her briefly. "You are learning," she said. "I am afraid every day," Asha replied. The old woman nodded. "Good. Courage that does not know fear is foolish." One morning, Asha sat closer than she ever had before. The lion lay on its side, breathing slowly. The sound was deep, rhythmic, powerful. Her heart raced, but she did not flee. Her hands rested on her knees. "Not today," she told herself. "Just closer." The lion opened one eye. Asha froze. Minutes passed, or hours, she could not tell. Then the lion closed his eye again. Asha exhaled.
She went home that day with trembling legs, but her spine straight. That evening, Kebede raised his voice again. Asha did not flinch. "Do not shout at me," she said quietly. The room went still. Kebede stared at her as if seeing her for the first time. "You think you are brave now," he sneered. Asha met his gaze. "I think I am learning." The slap never came. That night, as she lay awake, Asha realized something that frightened her more than the lion. She was changing, and there was no turning back. The next morning, she returned to the hills. This time, she sat close enough to see the lion's whiskers move with each breath. Close enough to die. Her hand hovered in the air. 1 breath. 2. The lion stirred. Asha did not move, and for the first time since this journey began, fear did not control her steps. It only reminded her to be careful. The impossible task no longer felt impossible. It felt near.
By the time the village noticed the change, it had already taken root. Asha no longer hurried through her days. She moved with a steadiness that unsettled people who had known her as quiet and fragile. Her steps were measured, her eyes lifted more often. Even when she said nothing, she carried herself like someone who had learned a secret. The lion was part of that secret. Each morning, she returned to the hills. Sometimes she brought meat, sometimes she brought nothing. She learned that gifts alone did not buy trust. Presence did. She began to sit closer, always stopping before fear turned into panic. She watched the lion's patterns, the times it slept deeply, the times it was alert, the moments it tolerated her existence without tension. The lion never rushed. That lesson sank deeper than any beating ever had. One afternoon, a sudden wind shifted the grass sharply. The lion rose, muscles tightening. Asha's heart leapt painfully. An instinct screamed at her to run. She stayed. Not because she was fearless, but because she trusted what she had learned. The lion paced once, twice, then settled again. Asha's knees trembled violently. She sat until the shaking passed. Patience does not remove fear, she realized. It teaches fear where to sit. Back in the village, Kebede felt the change more sharply than anyone else. He noticed it in small things first. The way Asha no longer rushed to serve him. The way she listened without flinching when he raised his voice. The way she finished her work without complaint. One evening, frustrated, he threw his bowl against the wall. "Do you think silence makes you strong?" he shouted. Asha looked at the broken bowl, then at him. "I think shouting makes you weak." The words landed between them like a dropped stone. Kebede lifted his hand. Asha did not step back. The hand trembled in the air, then dropped. He stormed out instead. That night, Asha slept deeply for the first time in months. The village women whispered, "She is bewitched." "No, she is stubborn." "No," an older woman said quietly, watching Asha walk past. "She is steady." At the hills, the distance closed further. Asha now sat close enough to hear the lion's breath clearly. She could see the whiskers fan outward when it exhaled. Each one seemed alive, sensitive, dangerous. Her body screamed warnings. She listened, but did not obey blindly. One morning, the lion shifted suddenly and let out a low growl. Asha's chest tightened. Slowly, carefully, she stood and backed away. The lion watched her leave. She returned the next day. That consistency mattered. Days blurred into each other. The rhythm of the hills began to feel familiar. The fear did not disappear, but it no longer ruled her decisions. Then came the moment that nearly ended everything. A sudden noise, goats scrambling on rock, sent the lion lunging forward. Asha stumbled backward, fell hard and scraped her palms against stone. The lion stood over her, close, too close. She could smell it, earth and meat and heat. Her heart thundered so loudly she was sure it could hear it.
Do not run. The thought came clear and sharp. Asha stayed still. Seconds stretched painfully. Then the lion turned away. Asha lay there shaking, tears spilling silently down her face, not from fear, but from the release of it. She had been spared, not by chance, but by patience. That evening, she visited the old woman again. "I almost died today," Asha said. The old woman nodded. "And yet you returned." "I am not brave," Asha whispered. "Bravery is loud," the old woman replied. "You are something stronger." Asha understood then. She was no longer chasing the whisker. She was becoming capable of it. The next morning, she approached closer than ever before. The lion lay stretched out, eyes half closed. Asha's steps were slow, deliberate. Each movement was chosen, not rushed. She stopped when her fear whispered enough. She sat. The lion opened one eye. Asha waited. Minutes passed. The lion closed his eye again. Asha lifted her hand. Her fingers hovered inches from the lion's face. She could see the whiskers clearly now, thick, pale, sensitive. Her breath slowed. "Not today," she told herself again. She lowered her hand and stood. As she walked away, something inside her shifted permanently. Back in the village, Kibede watched her with new uncertainty. "You have changed," he said one night. "Yes," Asha replied, "I have." He searched her face for fear. He did not find it. The next morning, Asha returned to the hills with calm in her chest and clarity in her mind. She sat beside the lion, close enough to reach, close enough to die. Her hand rose steadily. This time, she did not hesitate.
Asha's fingers trembled only once. Then they steadied. The lion lay on its side, breath slow and deep. The rise and fall of its chest like the rhythm of the hills themselves. The world narrowed to that single space between her hand and its face. She did not rush. She did not pray. She waited. A breeze moved through the grass, carrying the lion's scent toward her. Her heart beat hard but evenly now, no longer trying to escape her body. Slowly, carefully, Asha reached forward. Her fingers brushed the lion's whiskers. The touch sent a sharp warning through her arm, like touching fire without being burned. The lion's ear flicked. Its tail twitched once against the ground. Asha froze. Every instinct screamed at her to pull back, to save herself, to run while she still could. She held still instead, barely breathing. The lion shifted its head slightly. Asha's fingers closed. She pulled. The lion roared. The sound tore through the hills, deep and furious, shaking the ground beneath her knees. Birds burst from the trees, stones rattled loose. Asha stumbled backward, clutching the whisker in her fist, her heart slamming wildly now as fear finally broke free. She ran. She did not look back. Her feet flew over rocks and thorns, pain forgotten, breath burning in her chest. The roar echoed once more behind her, then faded into the hills. When she finally stopped, she collapsed to her knees, shaking violently. She was alive. In her hand, thin and pale against her dark skin, lay the lion's whisker. The impossible task was done. The walk back to the village felt unreal. People stared as she passed. Someone laughed nervously. Someone else whispered her name, as if testing whether it was safe to say it out loud. She went to the hills every day. She came back. She is holding something. By the time Asha reached the old woman's hut, a small crowd had gathered behind her. The old woman opened the door slowly and took one look at Asha's hand. She smiled. Not in triumph, in understanding. "You have it," she said. Asha stepped inside, her legs weak now that the danger had passed. She opened her palm. The whisker lay there quietly, unimpressive to anyone who did not understand what it cost. "I did it," Asha said, her voice cracked. "Now tell me what to do." The old woman studied her face instead of the whisker. "How did you do it?" she asked. Asha blinked. I went slowly." "Go on." "I learned when to come close and when to step away." "Yes." "I stopped running every time I was afraid." The old woman nodded. "I waited," Asha continued, the words coming more easily now. "I watched. I respected it. I did not challenge it." The old woman leaned back, satisfied. "Good." Asha frowned. "That is it?" The old woman smiled gently. "Now, do the same with your husband." The words landed harder than any slap Asha had ever received. "With Kebede?" she whispered. "Yes." Asha stared at the old woman in disbelief. "But he is not a lion." "No," the woman agreed. "He is more dangerous. A lion follows its nature. A man chooses his." Asha's chest tightened. "You mean I should be patient with him after everything?" The old woman's eyes hardened slightly. "I did not say endure blows. I said use what you learned." Asha said nothing. "Patience is not silence. Calm is not weakness. You learned when to stand still. You learned when to step away. You learned that fear does not disappear. It learns to obey." Asha looked down at the whisker again. "This," the old woman said, pointing, "was never the cure." Asha swallowed. "Then why send me?" "Because you would not have believed the lesson without the journey." The crowd outside murmured, confused by the lack of celebration. "Is that all? No medicine, no charm?" The old woman raised her voice. "The work is finished." Asha stepped outside, the whisker now wrapped carefully in cloth. The walk home felt heavier than the walk from the hills. Kebede was sitting outside when she arrived. He looked up irritated. "Where have you been all day?" He stopped when he saw her face. Asha stood before him calmly. "I will not be beaten again," she said. The words were quiet, firm, unmoving. Kebede laughed once, sharply. "You think you can talk to me like that?" Asha did not step back. "I will leave if you raise your hand, and I will not return." The certainty in her voice unsettled him more than anger ever had. He stood slowly, towering over her. For a moment, the village seemed to hold its breath. Then Kebede looked away. That night, Asha did not hide her bruises. She did not cry. She slept. And in her dreams, the lion lay quietly in the hills, watching her go.
The next morning, the village woke to something unfamiliar. Quiet. Not the fearful quiet that followed shouting or blows, but a stillness that felt cautious, as if everyone was waiting to see what would happen next. Asha rose before dawn and swept the compound slowly. Her body still ached, but her movements were steady. She tied her scarf loosely, no longer hiding her face. When Kebede stepped outside, he paused. She did not look up. For a long moment, neither spoke. "You were serious yesterday," he said finally. Asha nodded. "Yes." Kebede frowned, unsettled. "You would leave?" "I would," she replied calmly, "and I would not explain myself to anyone." The certainty in her voice frightened him more than shouting ever could. He had built his power on fear, on her shrinking. Now there was nothing to push against. He muttered something and walked away. The days that followed were not easy. Change never announces itself with comfort. Kebede tested her boundaries the way a child tests fire, stepping close, pulling back, unsure whether the pain would come. He raised his voice, he slammed doors, he watched her carefully. Asha did not react. When he shouted, she listened without trembling. When he insulted her, she continued her walk. When his hand lifted once, slowly, she met his eyes and said only, "I will go." The hand dropped. Word spread through the village. "She is stubborn," some said. "She will regret it," others warned. But a few women began to watch more closely. They noticed how Kebede's anger lost its shape when it met calm, how shouting looked foolish when no one flinched.
One evening, an older woman approached Asha at the well. "What did the old one give you?" she asked in a low voice. "Medicine." Asha shook her head. "Time." The woman frowned. "Time?" "Yes," Asha said, "and patience." The woman laughed bitterly. "Those don't stop fists." Asha met her eyes gently. "They stop fear." Weeks passed. Kebede changed slowly, unwillingly, not because he suddenly understood kindness, but because his old methods no longer worked. Rage without submission felt empty. Control without fear felt fragile. One night, after a long silence, he spoke differently. "You go to the hills every day," he said. "What did you really do there?" Asha looked at him. "I learned how to stand near something dangerous without losing myself." He scoffed. "You compare me to a lion now." Asha considered her words carefully. "A lion knows what it is. A man must choose." The words stayed with him. The whisker remained wrapped in cloth, hidden in Asha's basket. She did not show it to anyone. It had already served its purpose. Months later, the harvest came again. Not abundant, not miraculous, enough. On the day the grain was stored, the elders gathered beneath the acacia tree. As was tradition, a story was told. This time, Asha sat among the women, listening. The elder spoke of a woman sent on an impossible task, of patience sharper than claws, of fear that learned obedience. Some smiled knowingly, others shifted uncomfortably. When the story ended, the elder looked towards Asha. "Is this story true?" he asked. Asha stood slowly. "It is," she said, "but not in the way you think." She did not tell them about the bruises. She did not accuse. She did not demand applause. She said only this: "What patience can tame, force cannot. What calm can change, fear will only harden." The village was silent. That night, as fires burned low and children drifted to sleep, Kebede sat beside Asha outside their hut. "I was afraid," he said quietly. Asha looked at him. "Afraid of what?" she asked. "Afraid of losing control," he admitted. Asha nodded. "That is what fear does. It teaches us the wrong lessons." He said nothing more. The lion never returned to her dreams, but its lesson remained. Years later, when young girls asked about the whisker, Asha smiled and shook her head. There was never magic in it, only the courage to change. And that is why the elders say, the lion's whisker did not change the husband, it changed the woman who learned she did not have to shake. If this story touched your heart, subscribe for more stories where words carry weight. Comment what you would have done in Asha's place. And if you want more powerful African folktales rooted in truth and life, subscribe to Baobab Folktales. Another story waits beneath the Baobab.